I'm News 10's Dave de Rurange. I'm at Representative Dennis Richardson's house in Central Point. He is running for Oregon governor. Hello there. How are you doing?
Fine. Welcome to the Richardsons.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank
in.
you. All right. What our viewers are expecting is having an interview to find out who you are as a person and why you're running for governor this year, and what differences you would offer in comparison to Governor Kitzhaber. We know that you've spoken with K2 up in Portland. We know that you have discussed the differences, brought up many issues. But before we get into all that, I want to take a look at who you are and who your lovely wife is. Good. And who your family is.
All right. Well, let's step into the study here for a moment,
Very well.
We'll introduce you to the family. We have one son and 8 daughters.
Big family.
And so these are the family members that we have now. And I mean, we're very dedicated Christians. I mean, that's part of our life. And so we want to make sure that we have pictures to remind us that we're followers of Christ. And then these are our children from the oldest to the youngest. It's my son Scott and his 3 children, his lovely wife, my daughter Jennifer and her husband and their kids. And she is an artist, and you'll see some of her art on our walls.
Oh, great.
Throughout the house.
All right.
She's a very, very accomplished artist.
An artist in the home of a politician's home is very colorful, I'm sure.
It is. She doesn't sell a lot to folks here in Oregon, but she sells it all over the world.
Oh, wow.
It's
Great.
Really good. In fact, if you ever get a chance to go to her website, it's jensart.com, JENSART.
Okay.
Just see what she's doing. She's
Absolutely.
just really,
cool.
really talented. So her twin is Valerie, and all of our kids graduated from Crater High School. And so Valerie has 6 children, Jen has 4, and next, 2 years younger, was Rachel, and Rachel has 4 little girls, wonderful kids. And actually, they had a chance to live in Egypt for 3 years, and her husband was a professor at the American University of Cairo. And so they've had some real international experiences. They lived there. They also had a chance to live in India as a Fulbright scholar on a scholarship.
Wow.
After he's now a professor at BYU, Idaho. And so periodically, every 5 years or so, they do some kind of a sabbatical to expand their knowledge. Next to Rachel is Nikki, and Nikki's husband, Paul, and their 4 kids, they all live in Washington, D.C. He works for the Secretary of State, or the State Department, actually, and he's an engineer doing work in designing and remodeling embassies around the world. So they have a lot of experience too. And next to them is Mary and her husband Dan. And Mary is just finishing physician's assistant training and will be a physician's assistant by the end of the summer. And they live up in Portland. And it's almost like a twin, actually. This is Marie. Mary we adopted when she was 10.
Oh.
And she's 1 month older than Marie. And so it was, from the time of the adoption, this has been kind of an issue because your seating at the table and so forth is based on birth order. And so all of a sudden she had an older sister by a month. And so anyway, but they got over that and things are fine. So Marie, they live in Wabash, Indiana. They have 5 children, 4 boys and a girl. And her husband, Jared, is an anesthesiologist at the hospital back in Wabash. And then this is our next to the youngest is Laura, and she and Steve, and they now have 3 children, and they live in Peoria, right next to Phoenix, Arizona. And then this is our youngest, Elisa, and her husband, Paul, and they lived in Central Point. And so we're glad to have them here, and they just had their first baby.
All right.
So
Wow.
That was our 31st grandchild.
31st.
We had 15 boys and 15 girl grandchildren, and so they broke the tie with a little girl. So now it's 16, 15.
Does having such a big family affect you in your way of how you handle yourself in Salem as a state representative?
I think so. We had 5 teenage girls at once. And so that gave me a thick skin. I got used to criticism. I got used to having to be negotiating all the time and having to deal with the fact that sometimes no is not easily taken when that's the right answer, you know. And anyway, it's been good.
And your companion, your wife, she has helped you in dealing with those teenagers.
Kathy and I, with 9 children, you can just imagine what we've gone through, and it was a wonderful experience, and we don't know how we did it. We're looking back on it, because that's a large family. We lived about 20 minutes outside of town, so there were times when we would make the round trip, a 40-minute round trip, 3 times in one day. But we just did it. But you know, that's the way it is when you have a large family. You've got soccer, you have gymnastics, you have school issues and school events, and but it was a great experience to live on a couple of acres and have the kids be their own best friends, because they couldn't just go down the block, because there was no block.
Yeah. How is it to have your husband now go into the race for state governor? Has that been a challenging transition, or is it something that you welcome? How is that dynamic here in the household as Dennis has made this decision?
Well, it's a sacrifice for us both. I mean, because the time commitment, he's in, you know, traveling all over the state a lot, and I'm not able to go with him all the time. Sometimes, you know, I do go with him, but it's something we both believe in. We believe in the state of Oregon. We think it's a wonderful place, and we just want to make it better for all Oregonians, and that's our goal.
Very well. Well, Kathy, I didn't mean to ask you, and I only told Dennis I would talk to Dennis.
That's okay.
But I knew that, you know, that's something that probably some folks may want to know about that transition.
You'd be amazed at how disenfranchised people feel that are not part of the I-5 corridor. They just feel like that nobody's paying attention to the needs of the economy on the coast or in Eastern Oregon. And I'm here to tell them, and wherever I go, I want them to know that I will be the governor for all of the state and not just a portion of the state.
All right. Well, are there any other parts of the house that you'd like to show us?
Oh, sure. Let's come over here. We'll show you kind of the mass picture of, well, you know what? You might be interested in seeing these. This is our wall of daughters, and I don't know, it may be a little bit close, but you can take a look and see if you'd like to.
The wall of daughters. Well, they are beautiful. All right.
So these are all of our girls in their wedding gowns, and
beautiful.
It's been a wonderful experience. I did suggest when the first daughter was getting married that maybe we all ought to go together and go and pick the gown. And that way we could do just some adjustments along the way, and they could use the same gown for all the weddings. And that didn't go real well.
Right. Oh, I know.
Neither Kathy nor the 8 girls thought that was a very good idea.
Okay.
But anyway, we thought, I thought I'd try it. Anyway, they're wonderful mothers now, and they were wonderful daughters when they were in the home.
Very well. Are they okay with you showing these pictures and everything to all of us?
Sure. They won't mind.
They won't mind? Okay. Well, those are good pictures, so.
Yeah.
Well, good.
This is the most recent family reunion that we actually had when everybody was together, and we did pictures. And it's a couple of years ago, and so it kind of shows what it's like when we all get together. For a family reunion, it needs to be in the summer, and it needs to be in a place where you can have so many kids and so many families. And so lately we've been doing that at a scout camp, where we will rent a scout camp, and you just pay for what you're using, and then everybody pays their own way if they can, and we get together for 4 or 5 days and just have a great time up in Lake of the Woods.
Oh, very well. Well, I mean, you are a Southern Oregon based person, and you said you're going to be representing all of Oregon. How is that dynamic, going to actually, I guess, help you? How will you show those up north that you will represent them as well? Because I believe you, I think, when you say you know about us and our issues down here, but how do you think up there they're going to know who you are?
Well, we're actually going to get an apartment in Multnomah County in June, and so we're going to move to the Portland area and be part of urban Oregon from June until November.
Okay.
And the goal is for me to get a better feel for what it's like to live in the city. I mean, I go through it, but I really don't have an understanding of the real situation. I'm spending a lot of time with people up there that are that have a graduation rate of 50%. I mean, the students in North Portland have half their kids drop out before they graduate. And of them, of those that drop out, a substantial percentage end up in jail or prison, and it's just not acceptable. And yet these are folks that normally vote for the Democrats, but the Democrats are not watching out for them. And so the message that I have when I go there is, tell me what's going on. Help me to understand about your community, because it's really communities that are the answer. And even in a big city, you have multiple small communities. Mm-hmm. And so I really firmly believe that a child's future should not be determined by the zip code that their parents happen to live in. Mm-hmm. And that we need to have equal educational opportunity for all students, regardless of their race, color, creed, religion, or background. And so to make that happen requires changing the way that we handle the funding, changing the emphasis so that those people that are not getting a fair shake at a decent education have an opportunity. We try and give opportunities for kids to feel lovable and capable. That's the way we were with our own kids, and that's what we're doing with our grandkids as well, because children just need to feel loved and like they're able to do things. And so that's part of what our job is as grandparents, is to help them have those opportunities.
Very well. Any other parts of the home you'd like to show us?
We just have, bedrooms and so forth, and this is our, just our main area. Mm-hmm. And do you want to have a seat and we can talk?
Thank you. Yeah. At this point, it seems like the big one that's been revealed is Cover Oregon, and how it hasn't worked. Mm-hmm. You are at the center stage of this, and as I've read more about this, you've been using this, and this has come to light that some critics may say that it may be used as political theater on your part because you are running for governor. But it was something that you said before, that you identified before you were running for governor, this problem that you knew would happen, and some responses you didn't get from Governor Kitzhaber. Where are you at this point of that investigation, or any response from Governor Kitzhaber? Is there any latest information from that?
Well, yes, the federal GAO has approved an audit, and they're going to go forward with that audit. We have a situation where there was supposed to have been the Cover Oregon launch, or the website be launched and able to enroll people as of October 1st. Well, now it's almost April, and they still have not had a single citizen who's been able to go online and go all the way through and sign up.
It's had to be on paper.
And so instead, they're signing people up on paper, or you can contact an insurance agent, and the agent can arrange for you to sign up for policies. But we've spent over $200 million on this Cover Oregon project, and we're continuing to spend millions upon millions of dollars on it so that we can save face, so that the current administration, the governor, can save face, when in reality there's other ways that you can sign up. I mean, other states have websites that work. The federal government has a website that works. But instead of saying we're going to stop throwing good money after bad and save the taxpayers' money, it's about, no, we're going to get there. We're not making any promises of when it's going to happen, but we're still going to make it work. And Oracle has now pulled off. I mean, they had 150 employees there after the failure in October. They pretty much pulled off, and we're hiring different people to come in. The governor's lopped off heads. I mean, we've lost Rocky King and Carolyn Lawson, Aaron Carbala, I think his name is, or Cariola, and now Bruce Goldberg. And yet, what's never mentioned by the administration is that it was the governor that selected and approved of Rocky King to head Cover Oregon. Mm-hmm. That Cover Oregon had neither soul to save or bottom to spank. I mean, it was just an amorphous public-private organization where there was no accountability. Mm-hmm. And so you had Oregon Health Authority arguing with Cover Oregon and vice versa, and yet there was no responsibility taken to make them assure that they would do what they intended to do. We had the quality assurance team, Maximus, and they were saying from the beginning, there's no foundational documents, you don't have enough experience, you don't have an organizational chart that makes sense, you don't have the right people doing the programming. And I presented this to the governor back in September of 2012. I mean, realize I was co-chair of Ways and Means at the time. My only goal was to make sure that we didn't have another fiasco, another state IT fiasco like we've had so many times before. And so I sent emails to him, I sent them to the leaders, I didn't get response, I called him, he called me back in front of Dave Daughter, actually he was in the room, and I explained to him that the quality assurance team is saying that this is in jeopardy, that it's going to fail unless you take action. And Cover Oregon and Oregon Health Authority are not taking action. I said, Governor, you've got to take action. He said, Dennis, you got to trust the team. I said, trust the team? I said, John, if this was your $48 million, which is what it was to start with, and now it's over $200 million, but if it was your $48 million and you had invested it and you had hired a quality assurance team to come in and oversee your investment, and your quality assurance group were saying that the people that you have in place are failing, it's not going to work, you wouldn't just trust the team. The success of this project depends on listening to the warnings that you're getting. And he said, well, I'll look into it. Well, that was in September of 2012. We had a campaign the following month, and in the November elections, we lost some seats. It was no longer a 30-30 split in the House, so I lost my position as co-chair of Ways and Means, and there was no further discussion about the oversight. And so we wasted all this money. The governor had responsibility to see that it got taken care of. He failed to do it, and it's time for the people to realize that this is just another failed project, one after another. What we need is leadership and responsibility for the people's money, and we're not getting that.
Okay. Well, Cover Oregon will definitely be a major topic as we go down the campaign road. I have 5 certain questions really to ask you. The first one is pretty open, and Cover Oregon was a major part of that. But what are the differences between you and the now Governor John Kitzhaber?
The differences are very distinct. John Kitzhaber, he's a nice guy, right? But cowboy boots and charisma aren't going to cut it anymore. He took office back in 1995, and since the end of his first year, we as a state have had unemployment higher than the national average. It's been that way for 16 years, and we can't tolerate that. We're losing a generation. 4 of our kids have had to move to other states so they could get a decent job. I believe that we should be exporting products and services to other states and other countries and not exporting our kids to other states because they can't get a decent job here. John Kitzhaber came in his 3rd term after, when he's running against Chris Dudley, and he said, I am going to be the education governor. And so what does that mean? It sounds good. He wins the election. He hires Rudy Crew back in New York, pays him $284,000 a year to come here and work part-time to fix education. It was an abysmal failure. After a year, Rudy Crew merely had converted that into another job somewhere else. I think he was frustrated. I don't know what happened as far as working with the governor to make sure that the suggested changes would be implemented. It didn't happen. And so now we have a continuation of the problems we've had before. A third of our students are not graduating with their classmates. That's unacceptable. We're losing a generation of students. And we can't just put it off. We can't go another 4 years and lose another set of high school kids that are going to not even graduate from high school. And so those are major issues. The healthcare policies are a major issue. Cover Oregon was to be Governor Kitzhaber's legacy, but after wasting $200 million, it's all about maintaining the appearance that he's fixing something, when in reality we should have shut down Cover Oregon and changed our approach to this and made sure that those tens of thousands of Oregonians who had their notices of cancellation and still don't have insurance were getting the insurance that they need. We need to be focusing on the outcomes and not on promises made, promises unkept.
I think it's been a long time since Oregon has even had a Republican governor.
That's right.
How do you think you can be a Republican, from the Republican Party? Of course, as the governor, you're the governor of the whole state. But as a Republican entering the race, how can you win?
I'm not running as a Republican versus a Democrat. I'm running as an Oregonian with experience. I've got 11 years in the legislature. I was co-chair of Ways and Means, so I helped craft the state budget, which is a $60 billion budget. I was elected unanimously in my second term by the Democrats and the Republicans in the House to be the Speaker pro tem. I work across the aisle. I get things done. I focus on the outcomes that are desired, not the politics that are needed to try and make things look like you're doing something when in reality you're just stirring the pot. The way I win is twofold. One, we've been all over the state. We've been to all 36 counties, and our message is there's hope for the future. Do not feel disenfranchised. Do not move away. Do not give up, but vote and make sure that your friends, families, and neighbors all vote as well. So we'll have better turnout than we ever have had before. In addition, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be moving to Multnomah County. And the message that I have to the Portland area is that they're not getting their needs met as well. For instance, in the area of natural resources, we have rural versus urban, but we're all one Oregon. And so when I'm talking to Multnomah County, I say, here we are in Multnomah County, where Oregonians drive electric cars and hybrids, they ride bikes, they ride the Macs, they compost and don't use plastic bags. Why do we do those things here in Multnomah County? And the answer is everyone wants to do their part in lowering in some small way the carbon footprint. And yet our state has a dysfunctional natural resource policy, so one fire in Jackson or Douglas or Josephine County nullifies everything that's being done in Multnomah County. We need a policy that recognizes the entire state, and we don't have this urban-rural divide any longer. I'm coming in to be the governor to unify our state. We shouldn't have the success or failures of our state be focused on the differences, but we're all one Oregon. And when we have a county like Curry County that's almost insolvent, that draws resources that could be used for Portland schools. And so we need a governor who will recognize the needs of the entire state. We need a governor with vision. Right now, the governor focuses on getting through the next 2 years. He's managing a bureaucracy that's ever increasing in size and inefficiency. I will come in and focus on not just the immediate needs, but long-term vision. I mean, we need a freeway from Coos Bay to Burns to Ontario. You know, it only makes sense. We have a deep water port, and yet we have depression all along our seacoast because there's no good transportation. Well, that's not going to happen overnight. But if you don't have the vision and a governor who's willing to fight for it, meaning going back to Washington, D.C., working with the agencies back there, working with Oregon Transportation as well as the Federal Transportation Department, so that we can have a long-term goal of putting a freeway from west to east and east to west across the middle of our state. If we don't do that, we won't be able to open up the port. We won't have the redundancy. We won't have the ability to have commercial areas and residential areas grow outside of the Portland metro conglomerate. I mean, it's crowded up there and there's a lot of traffic. If we had better transportation, we could open up the eastern part of the state so that we could have our farms and ranches be able to transport easier. We could expand our state and the economic benefit. That doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without vision. It's just one example of the things that we could be doing that we're not doing.
All right. Well, let's scale back the scope now. I mean, we're talking about November, you know, running for governor and things, but the primaries haven't even happened. This is being shot right now at the end of March, and so we still have a month and a half, about maybe 2 months almost, until the Republican primaries for Oregon. You are one of the two Rogue Valley, I guess I would say, candidates that are, who are running, and what difference would you have in comparison to your other Republican candidates for the primaries? What distinguishes you in comparison to them?
Okay, there's 6 Republicans running in the primary to become the Republican candidate for governor, and I am the one who has experience, who actually understands the budget and has crafted the budget. I've communicated with citizens all across the state. More than 400,000 Oregonians get the newsletter that I send out, which deals with issues that are important to our state. I think that the primary it's an American way. I mean, whoever wants to run for governor, this is America. Just throw your hat in the ring and see how it goes. But I don't believe that the other 5 have the experience that it would take to be successful as governor. And so I believe that they should get in if they want, but maybe it would be good to work with the school board or the finance committee in your community, or be on the city council, or work in some county positions so that you gain a sense of how things work at the local level, and then go to the legislature. If you look through the history of Oregon, almost all of the governors who've been elected have had previous experience in the legislature. And that helps prepare you to be able to be the executive for the state.
And really that in comparison to Gordon Chalstrom, who is a Medford businessman. He puts for himself, and I assume his area of expertise, and I'll be talking with him in another interview similar to this one, that his focus is that he comes from the private sector, and that you've been there in Salem, so perhaps a term would be you're Salemized, or something that would be, you know, and so how would you distinguish yourself against Gordon?
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been in the legislature for 11 years. My salary is a little over $1,800 a month. And so I have essentially given up my law practice, where I made a whole lot more than $1,800 a month, in order to serve. As a lawyer, I've done tax work, business work. I've created and counseled companies like Gordon had. I've also represented consumers. When I first became a lawyer, I did everything. And so I've had experience with the law. And when you're creating law, it helps if you can read the law and know what you're reading, because it's the unintended consequences that end up affecting so many people. I talked to Gordon and I said, we made a deal. We shook hands. And the deal was, Gordon, if you win this primary, I will support you in the general election and do all I can to help you become the next governor. On the other hand, if I win the primary, I would appreciate it and expect that you would do the same with me. And he agreed.
Very well. The last time I spoke with him, he was, as a follow-up, I'm getting to my 5th question, because I know I said 5, but as a follow-up to that one, I haven't spoken with him yet, but he said that he says he has better ideas than what you have. Are you aware of what those ideas are at this point?
No, I don't have a clue
I don't know either.
what they
I wish
are.
I could tell you, but I will know once I talk to him. But
well, and if he has great ideas, that's wonderful. He can share them with me after the primary. He can share them with the people. But to win the primary means he has to have a majority of the vote, or at least more than all of the other candidates, statewide. And so I'm not sure what he's doing in that regard. I've been in this primary and in this campaign since last July. We have teams, kind of campaign teams in almost all the counties. I mean, we have some counties that only have 1,400 or 1,700 total population, but those we kind of do regionally. I've been working to build the campaign apparatus that will help us be able to win in October. For someone to get in now and duplicate that, it's going to be pretty hard to do. If he was able to win the primary, I don't know how that would prepare him to win in November at the election. And so I really believe that I will win. I believe that I'm the best prepared candidate, and that I'm happy to discuss with him what his suggestions are. And if they're good, if I win the primary, I would be happy to implement those. And I want his help, and the others that are running as well, to become the governor so that we can change the course of our state in a positive way.
Okay. Before I ask my 5th question again, Kathy's been sitting here very, very nicely, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but after listening to your husband talk about all these many things, I'm sure you've heard them so many times, you know, going over them. Is there anything that you would like to add about this process as you've been following Dennis along during his campaign?
Wow, that does put me on the spot.
It does. Well, if you don't want to talk, that's okay. If you don't want to, it's okay. I just, you know, you're sitting here next to him, and I just didn't want to leave you out so much.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, for the last couple of years, I have been running his office as a state representative. So I've been at the Capitol, I've seen how things work, and I see the work that he has done there and the knowledge that he has. And so I feel that he is very prepared, to run for governor and to run the state.
All right. The last election, this is about campaign. It was a very close one. Mm-hmm. It was a close one. Yeah. Now this is Governor Kitzhaber's unprecedented 4th term that he's running for.
That's right.
So do you think it's close enough that you can win?
Okay. When Governor Kitzhaber ran 3 years ago, it was for his 3rd term. He had been gone for 8 years. He had great name recognition, and he won by 22,000 votes out of 2.2 million voters. Very, very close. His promises that he made then was, I've got experience, and yes, I did say that Oregon is essentially ungovernable, but I've changed my mind now, and I think that it really is governable, and I can do a good job. And the voters, by a very slight margin, gave him a chance. And now he has a record to show whether he was able to do this. Was he able to accomplish these promises? Has he fixed the education system? Did he fix PERS? The answer is no to one and no to the other. How about the unemployment? We're going to help the economy. Are we better off now than we were then? It's just not so. We had a recession, and certainly that's happened, but you compare with what's going on in other states, and Oregon is bouncing along on the bottom while other states are recovering dramatically. We have policies that interfere and impede growth of companies. We drive companies away from Oregon instead of attracting them to come to Oregon. It's not about promises now. He's got a track record. It hasn't gone well for him. And what is he really saying? He's saying, I've had 3 strikes, man. Just give me a 4th. Just give me a 4th. I could just give me 4 more years and let me swing and see what happens. 3 strikes and you're out. This is like baseball. He's had the opportunity, and now it's time for someone else who has a different vision, a different set of experience, a different set of focuses and plans for the future. And let them have a chance. I'm that person. And I believe I'll win the primary, and I believe it'll ultimately come down to whether or not the majority of voters in Oregon are going to say, should we have an experienced legislator who has a history of working across the aisle, who understands the budgets, who's signed the front of business checks, who knows what it's like not to get paid to make sure that your employees get paid. I mean, I have that experience. Or do we have the doctor who has failed with Cover Oregon, who has a history of having big ideas, starting something going, and then walking away and going and doing something else and just letting it either succeed or fail based on the luck of the draw? Or do you want someone who can actually manage, who's a leader? And I believe the majority of Oregonians are going to say, regardless of party, that we want a change that will lead toward greater opportunity, greater freedom, greater prosperity, and not define success by your eligibility for food stamps or health care or all of these other state and federal programs. What we need is to restore the pioneer legacy that Oregon has had in the past, which is one of freedom and success and opportunity. Now, as a governor, I won't be going to Bhutan to find out how to be happy in a third world country. I want third world countries coming to Oregon how to be prosperous and free.
But you're going to live there in Multnomah County, and so is that something that you can achieve in convincing those up north about what the majority of those down south believe?
In an election like this, you have those that are almost tribal in their attitudes. They're Democrats who are not concerned about what has gone wrong or what the future holds. They're just going to vote. You have Republicans that are going to vote with their party. Okay, and I'm grateful for them, and I want them to turn out. And then you have those in the middle who are non-affiliated voters, and they want what's best for the state, and they're not aligned with a party so rigidly that it doesn't matter who's running. In Multnomah County, I don't need to win. I need to get between 27 and 33% of the vote. Okay, and so I believe that there are at least 34 to 35% of Multnomah County voters who really do want to change, who aren't going to accept any longer this idea that eligibility and dependency is a measure of success. And You know, they're tired of seeing Multnomah County and Portland's average incomes keep getting further and further away from the average incomes up in Seattle and Olympia. We don't have to put up with mediocrity. We are Oregon. We have a great state. We have a great opportunity right now to retake this state and restore it as a place where people go to have a beautiful life, a great environment, and make enough money to be able to provide for your family and get a good education. These are what Oregon has offered in the past. We've forgotten those things. We've lost connection with our roots. I'm here to restore those roots and to restore Oregon as a leader of the nation and not a race for the bottom.
All right.
Thank you.
Dennis, thank you very much. Representative Richardson talking to us about his campaign trail, letting us in his home and showing us who he is, his family, and his ideals and ideas for running for governor.
Well, you know, there is one thing when you look at the library. I mean, I haven't read all of those books, but I've read many of them, you know, and I think that to be the CEO of the state requires an experience base where you can learn from the experience of others, and you don't have to just start with a blank piece of paper and say, why don't we come up with a good idea? I firmly believe that every challenge, every problem that's faced by Oregon is being successfully solved somewhere. And so we don't need to just start from scratch. We can learn from the experiences, good and bad, of other states and other nations, and take the good and bring our state out of its recession and depression of not just economic, but also of attitude and beliefs, and restore the Oregon spirit, the pioneer spirit which made us great, which started our state. And realize 170 years ago, those that founded our state were the ones that walked 1,000 miles to get here. The timid stayed home. Oregon has a history of being robust and being forthright and honest and hardworking. We need to restore that, where you benefit from your labor, where the law of the harvest applies, and where you watch out for those that are in need. That's the Oregon that I see, and that's the Oregon I'll work to bring back.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow you. Thank you, Dennis. Yeah.
Thanks for being here. And Aaron, thank you.
Yes, Aaron, our photographer, thank you very much for following us along.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you.